the United States is under immense pressure following Russia's new oil agreement with China. Make sure to watch the full video to find out how this will cause an economic collapse. The U.S. government is to begin replenishing the world's biggest emergency oil stockpile after draining it for months, saying it was moving to bolster the country's energy security and give domestic crude producers assurance to drill more wells. The decision to buy crude again for the Strategic Petroleum Reserve follows a decline in oil prices in recent weeks. It is a reversal for the administration of Joe Biden, which has aggressively sold off supplies from the reserve in an effort to drive down fuel costs and alleviate fears of global energy shortages triggered by Russia's war in Ukraine. The U.S. Department of Energy said on Friday that it would pilot the new approach by buying back 3 million barrels of so-called sour oil produced in the United States by United States producers, with deliveries due in February. The price to be paid will be determined by offers from vendors later this month, with contracts to be awarded in mid-January. This is great news for the United States and bad news for Russia. Do you think this could possibly cause a war between the US and Russia? Let us know in the comments below. Biden authorized a 50 million barrel release from the reserve last year amid a surge in petrol prices, and then in March announced an unprecedented 180 million barrel drawdown following the Kremlin's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Congress had earlier mandated separate smaller releases. Last week the SPR held just over 382 million barrels, the lowest level since the mid-1980s, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. The move comes as Biden and his officials continue to put pressure on U.S. drillers to increase output even as crude and petrol prices continue to retreat, with gasoline now selling across the country at its lowest level since September 2021, the Energy Department said. Biden's senior energy advisor has said the administration was giving shale oil producers all the tools they needed to increase production, including the administration's pledge to replenish the SPR when U.S. oil prices fell to about $70 a barrel. We can buy back at those prices. That will put a major buyer back into the market that will stabilize it. So you have no excuse not to increase production, he said in a recent interview. U.S. oil prices settled at $74.29 a barrel on Friday, well below the average price of $96 at which the Energy Department said it sold oil from the SPR in recent months, and down from more than $120 in March. Average U.S. retail gasoline prices were about $3.24 per gallon last week, according to the EIA, down about a third since hitting a record high in June but still almost 40% higher than when Biden entered office. The SPR, established in the 1970s following earlier oil price shocks, consists of underground storage facilities along the U.S.'s Gulf Coast with a combined storage capacity of 714 million barrels. The SPR's rapid depletion this year has alarmed some oil market analysts, given fears of global supply disruptions as Western countries tighten sanctions on Russian crude exports while OPEC producers throttle back output. A former White House advisor and now head of Rapidan Energy Group welcomed the decision to start replenishing the SPR and said the announcement was a small but meaningful step designed to spur shale producers into more drilling. It reflects both their determination to refill depleted stocks as well as a hope to encourage more U.S. production by putting a floor in the price. Could this increased production of oil in the U.S. cause Russia to attack the U.S.? Let us know what you think down below in the comments. Russia's attacks on Ukraine's power grid are targeting the entire population, casting people into darkness and cold, and pushing the U.S. closer to sending the Patriot missile defense system long sought by Ukraine's government. It's been reported that the U.S. is finalizing plans to send the system to Ukraine, triggered a cryptic warning from Russia's U.S. embassy on Wednesday of unpredictable consequences. Sending the Patriot missiles would be seen as an escalation by the U.S., said Russian Foreign Ministry. Earlier, many experts, including those overseas, questioned the rationality of such a step, which would lead to an escalation of the conflict and increase the risk of directly dragging the U.S. Army into combat. The Patriot system is expensive and complicated and requires intensive training for the multiple people it takes to operate it, but could help the country guard against Russian attacks that have left millions without power. Frustrated on the battlefield and short of ammunition, Russian officials have seemed to embrace nuclear rhetoric in recent weeks. Russian President Vladimir Putin recently said the threat of nuclear war was growing and suggested his country could abandon its no first-use nuclear weapons doctrine, under which Russia has said it would only use nuclear weapons to defend its homeland. Putin's comments came after drone strikes hit military infrastructure deep inside Russia. Russia's military blamed Ukraine for the strikes. Appearing this week on Russian state TV, commander of the Russian military suggested Russia could not defeat the NATO alliance in a conventional war. But we have nuclear weapons for that, he said. Ukrainian president has long sought more long-range missile systems from Washington and NATO allies. In a conversation with U.S. President Joe Biden last Sunday, Ukraine thanked the U.S. for its continued support and asked for more air defense help. He told Biden that Russian missile terror has destroyed about half of Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Ukraine also rejected the idea recently suggested by U.S. Secretary of State that Ukraine seek to reclaim only land seized by Russia since February 2022 and not areas like Donbass and Crimea, which have been under Russian control since 2014. This would not be a finale, the Ukraine president said. That's it for the news today. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe so you do not miss the latest geopolitics news.